Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Retail ME, for hosting us today, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Speaking about myself was probably not the easiest task, and so I chose to speak more holistically about my family. I hope today has been as enriching for you as it has been for me, and thank you to all our solo speakers for setting this really nicely. For some odd reason, when I got asked to speak to you about the Chalhoub Group reinventing itself and the great legacy that I'm given to work with, one of the first things that came to mind was this saying from Isaac Newton: "If I have seen further than others, it is by standing upon the shoulders of giants." From a young age, I clearly understood and related to this saying. As I stand here today, I know very well whose shoulders I stand on. The privilege of it is not something I take lightly, and the weight of it is not something I ignore. Perhaps the main difference between Newton's giants and mine was that he wasn't raised by his. The forces of nature were not dinner table topics, and if he did not get it right, well, he would be failing only himself and maybe an apple tree. So let me tell you about how I came to stand in front of you today. My grandparents, Widad and Michel, married in perhaps a simpler time. There was much less distraction and urgency in the way life carried on. There was time for reflection. Talking to one another was what people did. Real talk, deep conversations about the way future looked like and how to get there. Plans were not a matter of quarters or months. Work was a lifetime endeavor, and success was not the goal. Their goal was to build, day by day, stone by stone, trip by trip. Power by an idea and pure grit. That idea became the Chalhoub Group, but it did not start that way. It started with one man, one vision, a suitcase, cutlery, and a bag full of catalogs. Because yes, at the time, people used to sell anything and everything through catalogs. And that vision was also driven by a woman who deeply understood luxury and fully embodied this art de vivre. In 1965, they made the strategic decision to move from Damascus, where they had opened a first Christophe store, to Beirut. And for 10 years, they worked relentlessly because they had not started a family business. They were simply building a business for their family. And just when it was flourishing, the Lebanese civil war broke out, and they had to move again, this time to Kuwait. In Kuwait, they rebuilt, consolidated, and in the late 1970s, their two sons, Anthony and my father, Patrick, joined the business. In 1980, they had developed a distribution network and opened a first-of-its-kind flagship store named after a Greek goddess, which happened to be the nickname that my grandfather was calling my grandmother, Tanagra. In the decade that followed, they grew, they expanded, their sons developed their own vision and honed in their talent. And because grit is not grit if untested, in 1990, the invasion of Kuwait threatened to destroy everything they had fought, and they had to rebuild again. This time, Anthony and my parents, Patrick and Inji, had no choice but to relocate. Not only because the survival of their business depended on it, but because by then, my parents also had me. And through flashes of memories and stories I heard growing up, I know now how, despite their worries, my family tried to shelter us from the chaos whilst deciding what was to come next. My grandparents decided to stay in Kuwait. For them, it was inconceivable that leaving Kuwait and their people, their second family, their colleagues behind. So the family divided and work continued under very difficult professional and personal circumstances for everyone. Thankfully, there was this vision, this commitment, this perseverance that had guided my grandparents through their entire business life and that was passed on to their children. The group operations then moved to Dubai in '91 and officially opened what are known like the Chalhoub Group headquarters in Jebel Ali here in 2003. Michel, my grandfather, the visionary hustler, and Widad, my grandmother, the strength and the elegance, planted a seed which was then to become the Chalhoub tree. But no tree can stand the test of time without the sun and the nourishment, which were Anthony and Patrick. And you might think co-CEOs rarely work, and that's true. But Anthony and my father were partners who encouraged and even tested themselves. More importantly, they were brothers who believed and counted on each other. Since they moved here to Dubai, and under their vision, the group grew exponentially. And Michel and Widad soon became more advisors to the business, trusting their own sons to take the business into these new waters. Like Widad says, it is important to leave space for the next generation to make their own path. And that is exactly what they did. Here in Dubai, they built and grew exciting business opportunities, working hand in hand with partners they trusted beyond just business. Developed new alliances with like-minded business partners, empowering one another to succeed based on mutual trust and respect. Together, the brothers expanded their own brands. Some failed, and others succeeded to what you might know today as Level Shoes, Triano, Rawali, Faces, Tanagra. They also decided to buy back Christophe, the homeware brand that started it all and put the family on this successful path. And they understood it was also time to give back, so they created Chalhoub Impact, a sustainability program that centers around education, health, and our planet. They involved themselves in community projects throughout the region and became partners to pioneers like the Al Jalila Foundation. They challenged themselves to a new way of seeing and adapting to changing times. They launched the Greenhouse in 2018 to host beauty incubators, fashion labs, tech accelerators for startups. They created Muse, a loyalty program for fashion aficionados, and they made the transformation into omni-channel, data, experiential, tech, an ever-developing space, as all of you know. So in their hands, we thrived, we grew, and we reinvented ourselves. We won some, and we lost many. And no loss has ever been deeper than losing my brother's dad, Anthony, our co-CEO. But what my dad decided was to take from him his passion, his relentless courage, and the definition of the saying, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And I guess we needed just that when the next thing to come our way was this global pandemic. I saw my father stand in this storm with integrity and valor. Our people stand together and work tirelessly towards sustaining, creating, inventing, reinventing, overcoming, and redesigning the very business they had helped build. And we cannot be prouder of every single one of them today. Still, fate was not done. In July 2021, my father's dad decided it was his time to leave us. In Patrick's own word, a visionary, a pioneer, a true leader, a great man that pushed us to be what we are today. A family man, generous, loving, caring, kind, and passionate. Above all, an inspiring leader and an example of courage and integrity. Someone we will forever be grateful towards, given what he has done, and whose memory we vow to honor with our lifetime commitment to continue building on this legacy. So here I am today, in what feels like yet another beginning for the Chalhoub Group. And if our history has taught us one thing, that is how to begin. To turn our trials into strength and our faith into action. To take the force of the blow and use it to move forward, to reach higher and to defy gravity again. As you can see, I stand on the shoulders of giants, not because of what they know and what they have taught me, but because of who they are. I must constantly reconcile both sides, the public view of who they are and who they are to me. And that grit, the dreams of my grandparents, the vision, the tenacity of my father and his brother, and for me personally, the audacity and strength of very entrepreneurial parents. It's not an easy feat to be raised by giants. The responsibility towards their legacy and my desire to make them proud, to be worthy of standing on their shoulders and see further, thanks to all they have taught me. Thankfully, I have also tried to take on that humanity that they have to lean on, their values, lessons on seeing failures as learnings and not defeat, and an unwavering faith, a faith in ourselves and a faith in our region. So I am lucky and work as relentlessly as I have. I hope I can one day have my son, no matter which path he chooses for himself, to stand someday as proudly and as gratefully on my shoulders as I stand before you here today on theirs. Thank you very much.